Okay. So just the A part of number 1 says, function is defined, find the value of h of 5. Okay, so h is defined as g of f of x. So I have to find, if I'm finding h of 5, I have to start out by finding f of 5. So I'm going to look at my chart. What's f of 5? 34. So then I'm going to take 34 and I'm going to plug it into g. But g is an equation, so I'm going to have to type it in. So it'll be 34 cubed minus 14 times 34 minus 27 over 36, 34 plus 2. And so I just typed that in, and I don't know, did I get it right? I got 1077.806 just by doing that on my calculator, okay? And then it says, find the value of f inverse of 4, or indicate that it's not defined. Now, remember, what does it mean to be an inverse? It means your ordered pairs are switched. So in other words, the ordered pair 2, 3 on function f would be the ordered pair 3, 2 on the inverse, right? So if f of x, f of 2 is 3, then f inverse of 3 is 2. That's what it means to be an inverse, right? So when they say to me, f inverse of 4 is what? Then that means f of what is 4, doesn't it? So look at your chart. F of what yields 4? F of what gives you 4? Not f of 4.
Oh,
F of, yeah. You see the difference there? Yeah. Remember, whatever you're putting in here, that's your x. That's your, yeah, okay. All right. Does that make sense now? All right. Anybody else? Do we need to talk about anything else? Oscar?
Can you do the average rate of change one? Not BI.
So BI,
Yeah,
like
I get
average, use the given data. Okay, so always, you guys, every single time, well, not in multiple choice, but every single time you are showing any kind of work and it says average rate of change, write out the formula. Some of you did, about half of you didn't do that on your quiz, and I didn't take points off, but you gotta do it because you are gonna lose points if you don't on the exam. You have to write out the formula. So what is the formula? Well, let's look at what we've got here first of all. What's my given data? At time 0, the students got 75. And then at time 3, their score was 70.84. Right? That's my data? Okay. What is the formula for the average rate of change? F of B minus F of A, or you don't have to use those letters, but whatever you're doing, over B minus A. And this is your A, and this is your B. And this is your F of A, and this is your F of B. What is average rate of change? Fancy way of saying slope. So here we go. Here we go. So F of B, 70.84 minus 75 over 3. So when I did that, that's how I got, what did I get? Negative 1.387? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I try to plug in some of the values into the equation I had. Just made it more complicated than it was.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, you can go ahead, it says use the given data, so that's why we just stuck with those points right there. Anything, yeah,
Number 2, can you do AII?
2, A, I. The one where we have to find the values of A and B? Okay, now, the problem doesn't stipulate that I have to do this by hand, okay? And they tell me in the problem itself, this is gonna be logarithmic, right? So what I did was, I simply took these 2 points and did a logarithmic regression on them. Okay, there is nothing stopping me from doing that. Now, I do have 2 equations set up, so if I wanted to do it by hand, I could. Here are my 2 equations. Okay, is that all right with you? Get that one. Is that okay? Does that make sense to you, those 2 equations? So if you wanted to do it by hand, you could, substitution or elimination. So if I wanted to get rid of those A's, I would have 75 minus 3.8. So 4.16 equals D. Okay, wait a second. I don't even think I need to do that because what's ln1?
0.
0. So this is 0, so I already know A is 75. So I'll just go straight to my second equation. Subtract 70.84 minus 75 and divide it by ln4. And that's how I got B equal to negative 3.001. It's actually 0080. So 3 decimal places, we do that. Does that make sense to you? But again, unless you're told otherwise, if it's a calculator section, use your calculator.
For BI on 1, did you just use your calculator to find it?
Use the given data, BI on 1. Find all values of X as decimal approximations, absolutely. So what I would do, maybe what I did,
Plug in 3.
is, no, I don't, when it says G of X equals 3,
It said it
that means Y is 3. So I graphed the original and graphed 3 and looked where they crossed. That's what I did. Okay? All right, let's move on. Let's go to number 3. We've done these before. I noted that there aren't a lot of the practice work, so one like this could very well be a question. And I think we're prepared for this one. So let's take a second. Pretty easy. Take a second and see what you can figure out for problem 3. Read it carefully, but it sounds just like ones that we've done. All right, did we come up with some points? All right, let's talk about the points first, and then let's look at the equation you came up with. Okay, so tell me your points. What did you come up with? What was point F? 0.26. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. What do we know about the furthest we are from the table? Isn't it 26?
Yeah.
Where we start. Okay, perfect. Okay, and then next one, what'd you put here? I put 1/20th, comma, 20.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
Now, that could be a decimal, so instead of 1/20th, 0.05, perfect. What'd you put down here? 1/10 or 0.1, and this was 14. And then this one was 3/20ths and 20, and 1/5 and 26. Now, does anybody have a question about any of those points? Because those are critical. We want to get those right so that we can write our equation. Okay, which is the next step then. We're going to write the equation. They tell us it's going to be a sine equation. They told me that. That could also be a cosine equation, but I'm doing sine. Right, so tell me what I know. What do I know?
so you know D is 14 or 20. 14. 20.
D is going to be the midline, right? D is going to be where the sine curve starts, and that's 20. Does that make sense to everybody? What does that make my amplitude then, my A? That's going to make that 6. Or -6, depending on where you're starting off things. Now, how about B? B is the number that is, or the influences the period. So I know that period is 2 pi divided by B. So what's my period? One-fifth? So 1/5 equals 2 pi divided by B. So B must be 10 pi?
Yeah.
Right? So this is going to be 10 pi. Right, now I got to figure out my C, and my C is going to be my phase shift. So this is where you could be different from each other. If it's a sine curve, so we're either going to start it here, or here, or here. I mean, those are the starting places for the sign. So, if you choose to start it here, then you're going to have, what are you gonna have in there?
Plus 120.
I think it's minus 1.
But you just make the amplitude negative.
Ooh.
Okay, it's gonna be minus 1/20th, because what does putting in minus 1/20th do? Shift you to the right, which is exactly what we did. Here's the origin, right? Now, somebody over there, I don't know, Xander was mumbling about something, said you need a negative on your amplitude number, and that is correct. If you choose to start here, then isn't your sine curve upside down? Now, if you chose to start over here, that would be fine. This would be minus 3/20, and that would be a plus. Everybody good? Okay. Refer to the graph, look at K. And P. So those 2 points. On that interval, which one of these is true? Is the function h positive and increasing, positive and decreasing, negative and increasing, negative and decreasing? We're talking about the function itself. We're talking about this right here, the y values, positive and increasing. So easy. Now what about the rate of change? Decreasing, because that part of the curve is concave down. Okay? All right, number 4, this one is a little bit crazier. Let's read all of the directions there. Keywords in this thing. We know we're in radians because everything we do is in radians. We know we gotta be real. But look at the second bullet point. Solutions to equations must be real numbers. Okay. Determine the exact value of any expression that can be obtained without a calculator. So what does that mean? You're not going to type in on your calculator the sine of pi over 3. Because you know the sine of pi over 3 is root 3 over 2. And that's the exact value. Everything should be combined, rewritten in equivalent form. All right, here we go. So part A. Rewrite G as a single logarithm without negative exponents. In other words, we want ln something. So what's your thought on that? What's step 1? What's this? X cubed? And what's this? Square root of x, or x to the 1/2, or square root of x? I don't think it says anything about fractional exponents, just, you know, okay. All right, so then what? That becomes a division, it's gonna be x cubed over root x. That's gotta be simplified. So, if you want to, it might be easier to think of that as x to the 1/2. And then what are you gonna do with the exponents? Subtract them, so this is gonna be x, or ln x to the 5/2.
Yeah.
Done. Rewrite h as an expression in which cosine appears once and no other functions are involved. Okay. So what do you think when you look at that?
Sin squared minus 1 equals cosine.
Be careful.
squared.
1 minus.
Okay, so Riley says 1 minus sine squared is cosine squared.
But
Okay, and if you forgot that, you certainly will never forget sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. So if you subtract the sine squared over, this is true. This is true.
so equals negative
So the top is actually negative cosine squared, and now we can cancel,
Cancel.
and all we are left with is negative cosine, which meets the requirements of only cosine and no other functions. Are we good? All right. Now, functions j and k are given by this. Solve j of x equals 0. So in other words, 2 sine cosine minus cosine equals 0, and we're only solving on this interval. Now, you know how to solve that equation. How do we solve that equation? This is no calculator, right? So far I haven't needed one. Let's see. All right, so what do I do with this? Factor out a cosine, perfect. We may have actually already done this exact problem. So cosine equals 0 and sine equals 1/2. Now remember, you're only looking at this part of the circle. So on that part of the circle, where is the cosine 0? Pi over 2. Now it's 0 other places, but oh wait, is that inclusive? So pi over 2. So this one is pi over 2. On this part of the circle, where is the sine 1/2? Pi over 6. So the answers to the question are pi over 2 and pi over 6. They look scary, but really they're not if you take them apart. All right, now we want k, which is 8e to the 3x minus e. We want that to equal 3e. All right, what do you think about that? Okay, you're stranded on a desert island, you're going to die if you don't take a first step. What's your first step going to be? Addie. Seems like a very reasonable first step.
I say we factor and throw in the, I'm not really sure how to say it. Something with the exponent, but like the 8 and the 4.
Okay,
Yeah.
those are just coefficients, aren't they?
Yeah.
Can I just divide by those?
Yes, I was
So
trying to say.
I'll just divide by 4, so 2e to the 3x equals e.
There we go.
What? Wanted to say something, Joe?
just agreeing. Just
I think you had an idea.
You have to roll this out, your lack of flow caster on your
It's just water. Just water.
Could we divide by e? No, you can't. E is a number. You can divide by it. So tell me what happens when I divide by e. Now remember, that's e to the first. So how would I put those together? 2e to the 3x minus 1? Oh,
That's what he's trying to explain.
Sure.
right? So you guys, if you had x to the 7th over x squared, then wouldn't that be x to the 5th? When these are variables, it doesn't change, you subtract the exponents, okay? All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and divide by that 2. So now I have e to the 3x minus 1 equals 1/2. Yeah, this is a no calculator. This is no calculator. Okay, now what? Now you're gonna ln both sides. And what happens over here?
Oh.
So 3x minus 1 equals ln 1/2. Now it's no calculator, so I can't do anything except ln 1/2, right? But I'm solving for x, so I'll just add 1 and divide by 3. So x equals 1 plus ln 1/2 over 3. Now, I don't know how picky they're going to be, but let's just take a second and look at ln 1/2. Would you agree that's ln 1 minus ln 2? And what's ln 1? 0. So instead of, if I don't like that fraction being in there, that could be written as 1 minus ln 2 over 3. Because ln 1/2 is just negative ln 2. Again, I don't know if we have to go that far or not, but you could. All right, and finally, solve this equation. Cosine 2x plus 4 equals 9/2. And this one says find all. So we know what that means, right? We're gonna do a plus or minus thing. Okay. Anybody wanna take a stab at this one? We could definitely subtract 4. Cosine 2x equals, is that what you meant, subtract 4?
1/2.
So 1/2?
Now, cosine 2x equals 1/2.
There are 2 ways you can take this.
Please, right?
First of all, cosine 2x is something,
Yeah.
right? And it's something you're supposed to know.
Cos.
So, anybody know it?
You got 1 minus 2 sine.
Backwards.
2
It's
cos
either,
squared
you
minus
could
1. 2
use
cos squared minus
1 minus 2 sine squared, or you could use 2 cosine squared minus 1.
Like the
All
first
right.
one.
So I'll just do that one. 2 cosine squared minus 1 equals 1/2. Perfectly legitimate,
Good execution.
okay?
Oh, I
And
like
then
to
we
add 1 and
will
then divide by 2.
add 1. So 2 cosine squared equals 3/2.
Yeah.
So cosine squared equals 3/4.
Yeah, and then you just throw it in the blender.
And when I do that,
Bang out.
plus or minus, we keep
Plus or
forgetting,
minus.
and I keep saying it,
Oh, I messed
plus
up
or
on the
minus
two.
every time we square root.
Day 1
So cosine x
Like 4 of those problems.
equals,
Yeah, I messed up on the quiz.
cosine x equals plus or minus
After
root 3 over 2.
What?
That's what I did.
That was the only one.
Where does cosine equal root 3 over 2?
pi over 6.
All the pi over 6's, right?
Every single one.
So we're gonna have pi over 6, pi over 6,
Whoa. Where's the back?
5 pi over 6, 7 pi over 6, and 11 pi over 6, right?
There we are. You could just
Now,
choose
the
that.
question says, find all of the results, okay? So, I have to write this in whatever style you want, but it has to mean this, right? So if you want to say plus 2 pi k, or k is an integer, that's fine, it means the same thing. And all these have to have that. Okay, so this is one option.
And it says new.
Remember I said there were two paths you could take. So one path is get rid of the 2x. Now, because there's no regular x in the problem, you don't have to do that. That's why you have another option. Okay? And if that makes sense to you, I'll just stop with that option because it's fine. Okay? All right. And guess what? That's it.
That's it or what?
So, now you're getting
Another one.
practice test 1. This is an actual practice test. Now, because it was the first one they put out, they didn't number it. So I am going to ask you, so that you can keep me straight, just put a number 1
It's gotta be at least 3 trees.
on this.
A lot of trees.
Put a number 1, please, on everything I give you here today. Put a number 1 on it. It's in 2 parts because I ran off the free response separate from the multiple choice. All right. So what I just gave you was the free response and the multiple choice. All right, and I'll leave it up to you. You want to start with the multiple choice and the free response?
Multiple choice.
Good guy, good guy.
All right, let's start with the free response. Please mark this. Mark it number 1, please. It's gonna get confusing if you don't mark it. Mark it number 1. And we're gonna start with the free response. If you look at the end of your packet, I gave you the answer sheets, so if you want to rip those off or not use them or whatever, it's completely up to you. But I gave you the answer sheets, the format of the exam. When you answer question number 1, you will answer it on answer blank number 1 in the appropriate places. Okay? Everybody understand how that works? All right, so here's what I want you to do. Go ahead and with your partner, let's take 10 minutes and see if you can get question number 1 done. Just number 1. There's only 2 in this part.
Is that the one?
Is the agent test out there number 2?
This one or this one?
We're doing number 1 on the free response.
Here, this section is. So you have, in reality, you're gonna have 30 minutes to do these 2 problems,
but we're almost out of time, so I'm giving you 10. Let's see if you can get number 1 done in 10 minutes. Oh, with your partner, yeah. By yourself or with someone.
I get another one.
What? Very weird.
Alright, so basically what we're gonna wanna. So we put X of F. 4, 4, F of 4, F of 4 is 3, so 3, G of 3
Is that literally all?
is 2 on 3.
Olivia, did you do that number two? A? Yeah. Did we just? I just wrote the number down. Yeah.
G is.
Did you get 2.197? Yeah.
You graph it, you graph the two and see where they intersect.
That's how we did the answer.
No, this is the linear regression.
I think it's 3 of 3 equals
Just
2.
graph this equation and then y equals 3. Yeah.
Is this E of 3 equals 4?
You gotta like. Wait, I think we're wrong.
You can use a calculator on this test. These 2 questions are calculated. We're only doing the first one. A lot of times, if you're looking at letter C, I is,
To the nearest 3.8.
yeah, so I is the yes or no part, and then double I is the explanation.
Oh wait, no, I was looking at the wrong one too.
Which is 2 L is 3.
It's increasing without bounds. It's just when you have as x approaches infinity. Okay, so if it's increasing without bounds, if it's positive infinity, if it's decreasing without bounds, it's negative infinity.
F of x of 3 is 5.
I think so.
They got the same thing. I don't know how we got there. Why is it?
Oh, I get it.
Why did
That's what we're doing right now.
So when we get to the 3, why did it?
Myself.
F equal 2, right?
Doesn't look like.
Okay. So that's a 2 equals 3. That's a 3. This is not equal to 2. Is f of 3 equals what, 5?
Yeah.
No, we can't do 2.
Well, because also there are multiple points that have
Oh, yeah, but here,
it doesn't have yeah.
Okay, I didn't quite give you 10 minutes, but I wanted to talk about these because there's some conversation out there. Alright, so the first one, composition, we're finding H of 4. So it's defined as G of F. So first we're going to find F of 4. Well, F of 4 is 3. So then we're going to take 3 and plug it into G, and that's going to be 2ln3, which I typed in on my calculator and got this. Good? Okay. Then it says, find all the values for which f of x equals 3, or indicate that there are no such values. Guys, this is f of x. So where does f of x equal 3? At 2 and 4.
First question, do we have to write all that work, or we just have to answer?
I don't know. My thought is, you better write down something. Okay? Because if all you have is the answer and it's wrong, then you're not getting any credit. I would write down. Remember, you have 30 minutes to do these 2 problems, so it's not like you have to race. Okay. All right, B. B says we want the function to equal 3. So again, that means 2 ln x equals 3. So ln x equals 3 halves. These are the 3 halves. I typed it in my calculator. 4.482 is what I got. Does that seem okay? Addie? Okay. Now, determine the end behavior of the function g. G is a logarithmic curve. Now, I have that memorized what the shape of a logarithm is. You probably should, but on a calculator problem, could you type in 2 ln x? And look at it. What's it doing? The farther it goes, the higher it goes. So the limit is positive infinity. And this is the way it has to be written. They're saying, use your limit notation. All right. Does f have an inverse? So here's f, right here. Yes or no? No. No. The inverse of f is not a function. Okay? Why is there no inverse for f? Because multiple x's give you the same y. So when you invert that, you are going to have multiple inputs. So what I would say is it isn't 1-to-1. It's not 1-to-1. What a clean, neat way of expressing it. What does 1-to-1 mean? 1-to-1 means every one of these is paired with a unique one of these. 1-to-1. It's not 1-to-1, it doesn't have an inverse. Okay, so what's reasonable for homework on prom weekend? We're going to do 2 and 3 and 4. So 2, 3, and 4.
Have fun, prom guys.
Do on our next class. So Tuesday. All right, so you guys have Tuesday to do 3 problems, people. Come on, suck it up.